Okay, so I just want to give everyone a heads up that we are recording this and to just reiterate again that disclaimer for anyone viewing this, it is a really a story about, my brother Colin and, we loved him. He was a great brother. And there's mention of his suicide in this piece and that it's really tough. And I appreciate anyone's attention watching this. And I promise if you stick with it, I think you'll see the beauty of who he was and maybe see your loved one in this piece as well. Okay, with all that said, shall we get started, Cody?
Yeah. I think also just wanted to reiterate the that it can be hard. So maybe if you do have someone else to watch it with alongside you, it's always easier. And also, it's um, this is Corey and his family's story, and we hope that um, by introducing this and within our own stories too, um, that you you guys can feel more comfortable about sharing your stories and sharing your brothers or sisters or sons or daughters. We're all in this together. So um, I just want to say thank you, Corey, for creating this documentary, and um, to your family as well. Classic Corey, and I'm sorry, I, for, I forgot your mother's name.
Susie.
Susie, yes, Susie, and your brother too. Um, your other brother. So you have Colin, you, and
And Phil, yeah.
Phil. Um, just thank you all for doing this and for for m- for making it possible that we can also be comfortable in our own stories and sharing. So thank you,
No,
and that's all I got.
thank you, Cody. Really appreciate that introduction. Well said. All right, everyone, let's get going.
So when I looked, should I look at the camera or not?
It messes up the footage.
Oh,
He told me that one time. He said, "Dad, you've got to say nothing when you're interviewing."
Say nothing?
What? Yeah, you don't.
Like you don't,
Like
you
when you
don't,
ask a question, you let the person talk,
right.
and you don't.
You don't interact with the
No,
cameraman.
no. That was one of the many lessons that I've been taught. That's really hard to break.
To not interact with the cameraman.
we had moved to Sacramento,
We moved up there in 1988.
but I remember having a conversation with Dad, and I had obviously been to the doctors and found out we were having a boy, and so I was talking to him. I said, "Oh boy," and he obviously didn't catch on, and I said, "Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy." We knew boys because we had two before, so we knew how to do boys.
We are introducing little Colin. Corey, can you point to Colin? There is new Colin.
Oh, it's always so exciting when you have a new baby. I can remember when they brought him to me, him looking like a peanut. He was tiny. And then I think I was probably nervous about how I was going to handle three.
Penny, gentle music. Colin Trent. His famous brother Philip Trent. And we have Corey Trent.
Oh, you guys were naturals at playing with one another. You enjoyed each other. It was like you were friends. You were your best friends.
Yeah, I remember roughhousing. I remember playing games. Being the older brother, I would always be the one setting up all the games. I was the one in charge of the adventures.
But I'd make new rules, and Corey wouldn't like that. You know, Colin was more sport-oriented, right? So he wanted to play basketball and football and soccer. And I would never let up. I was gonna play 100%. If I let him win, he knew it and he hated it. He said, hey, no, give it to me. I want to see the best. And Corey was more the creative.
It felt right to put Phil and Colin in my movies because all I had was those two as my actors as I was learning to become a filmmaker.
It's awesome.
This kid here.
This kid holding the camera.
This kid just recording shit all day long for no apparent reason.
You guys are gonna thank me later. When we're like 60 years old and we're like, what were we like?
When he was 10 years old, Colin announced to me that he was going to buy a house out in the country and he wasn't going to have a mailbox. And I said, well, why aren't you going to have a mailbox? He says, well, if I don't have a mailbox, then I can't receive any bills. He had an image of what he wanted life to be at a very young age. That's the way he saw his future.
And he's gone.
He had pretty high standards.
It's easier. You can come across, it's okay. If it's easier, just sit, bend your knees, sit down nice. Colin, you doing all right up there? Yeah, hanging out.
He tried to tell me that, you know, there were so many people that were much better than he was, and I didn't really see that, but he would just say, and, you know, that was, I think he was kind of bummed out about that.
What are you thinking about, Colin?
Just thinking.
Just thinking?
Yeah. Thinking about how you're recording me.
As he was becoming more of an adult, I was not aware that he was living with schizophrenia.
What is this, Colin?
It's a game called Sport. You like, you create your own little creature and then you like attack stuff and evolve and...
He's like, hey, I think somebody's hacking into my Wi-Fi and they're stealing my homework. And I was working in IT at the time and I was like, that doesn't sound right. And he was very smart with computers. In my mind, I knew that he knew that didn't make sense. And I think I heard after the fact that he was putting tinfoil across the windows and he thought he heard laughter and people making fun of him.
He shared with me that he was hearing voices, and he said that they were more like mischief makers, and he's no good, or you know, he's stupid, and things like that. And he kept saying, well, you can hear what I'm thinking, right?
I think it gets difficult to understand how to relate to someone who is going through a mental illness. This is all new. This is all new to all of us.
I don't know if I wanted to admit it, I think it was, like I thought it was a temporary thing, you know?
To just like hear that word schizophrenia uttered. It was a good 2 or 3 years before it really sunk in.
I just remember looking at him and thinking, who is this? You know, it wasn't him at all.
I feel like Truman in The Truman Show, being completely paranoid that everyone is watching me and listening to my thoughts. One part of me says it's a delusion that I can learn to ignore. The other part of me tells me that I have to continue to prove it's true to defend myself.
He wanted his independence. He was not happy about coming home.
We tried to give him his space. We knew that that was important for him, so I would talk to him through the door. Like I'd go up to the top of the steps and start talking.
And he was calling me to test his mind, to see, hey, what's reality and what's not reality.
And I can remember people telling me, like, you know, how good I was with him and, you know, how brilliant it was. And I'm thinking, like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm just trying to keep him safe in a safe place.
Again, we were just unaware of what a mental illness, how that impacts a person, and how, as a caregiver, how do you relate to that and how do you help them? Because they don't necessarily think that there's anything wrong with them, and they can be very combative, that there's nothing wrong, and they don't want your help.
You know, I think a lot of my messages to him were more kind of like reliving memories to help him remember the times we had or what it was like before.
Some guys going underwater and doing bubbles.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Did you find any gold yet?
Uh-uh.
No treasures?
Yeah, underwater,
Underwater.
I can't be both who I used to be, engaging in everything around me, and who I am now. I'm frustrated with my situation. I know I can try medication again, but I don't feel like slowing down my mind until the point where I can't have any productive thoughts.
He told me one time that after he'd seen the psychiatrist, that he didn't think they could help him. He thought I could. And that was it was just a real tough, I mean, I knew I couldn't. And I told him, I said, you know, I don't have the tools.
He liked being in nature. Nature, I think, was very calming for him. I think if we're still enough and we're quiet enough to listen, the nature has a lot to tell us. And it just takes time to listen to what they're trying to say.
There's no doubt I have a mental illness. It's like my mind is so desperately looking for meaning that I designed a way of looking at the world that made it meaningful and put me directly in the center of it all. And now, I'm suffering the consequences of that thought process. I want nothing more than to isolate myself as to not burden the people around me. I thought how pleasant it would be if my own worries were simply those of a normal person. I'm not living in the same water as everyone else.
He had talked about jumping a train and going, you know, who knows where, just jumping a train and going wherever the train was going to take him. It was just bitterly cold. He just was not prepared for the weather.
finally we got a call. This was days later, and we went and picked him up. I think he was just trying to find his freedom. He wanted to be his own man. Always wanted to be his own man from the very beginning.
Things changed again in a very positive way when we approached him about getting Social Security income or Social Security disability income, and that this would allow him to be out on his own. And so he started to emerge once he realized that after all this time of living here, that he was going to be able to be on his own. He was interacting with us.
You know, he had gotten his apartment. He was doing a lot of research. He was playing, you know, the guitar, piano, doing paintings. You know, the true Colin came out quite a lot. So it felt great.
So his apartment was right over here. I had this feeling on that weekend, and we drove by several times. We noticed that the light was on and the TV was on. So, well, of course we knocked on the door, but there was no answer. I went to work and I told Dad he needed to go by and check and see if he could make contact with him.
And asked the landlord to go into his apartment. And I explained, you know, that he lived with a serious mental illness and we hadn't heard from him for several days.
They went in. He went in with one of the maintenance guys who was very, very kind and knew Colin from him being there.
And then he knocked on the door to try to get a response going into the bedroom, and then he turned the key and
he opened the door.
And we went in and he was lying on the floor. And that was a rough, I went into instant shock, I'm sure. I knew he wasn't there anymore. But the manager was very upset, and he had 2 little boys, I think he told me, and he just hugged me. You know, he just put his arms around me. He said, you know, no father should ever have to see this. And he was very upset. And he was sort of upset for me. And I was, like I said, I was frozen. You know, I really, honestly felt nothing. But it was tough. And I knew I was going to have to call Mom. The hardest call I've ever had to make.
I knew. I knew. It's just, it was too hard to think about. But,
And I asked what happened. I was hoping it was, you know, an accident or, you know, his heart gave out or something, but.
Did someone break in? Did somebody, you know, was it a burglary? Well, like what could have happened here? This doesn't make any sense.
the police were acting real funny about us going into the apartment. And I wasn't quite understanding why. We saw that he had thrown up in the sink. So I guess my mind went to, okay, what would make you sick? What could you eat or take to make you sick? We found the sodium nitrate, and And of course, when I looked it up, it was obvious. It was something that was new that kids were using to take their lives.
I was alone with him in the room, so I said a prayer over him and told him I loved him, that I knew he had moved on and it was okay. And I was glad it was me that found him.
You know, you begin to blame yourself. You think, okay, what could I have done? What did I not do? What is, you know, where did we miss the mark? Because again, you know, as a parent, you're just, you feel like, okay, how did I miss this one, and what could I have done more?
You can't help but be responsible for someone, especially your little brother. It's hard not to feel like you're a bystander in their world.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
He wasn't meant for this world. The world was not where he needed to be. So, sort of hung up on that, yeah.
This pine cone, as we were filming, just fell on the ground.
That was it to us.
Initially, I grieved a lot by myself. I did it very privately. I wanted to stay strong because I thought that that's what you guys needed from me. I mean, I definitely saw Dad suffering.
You know, I'm not in a good place.
And it was devastating. I have totally failed. I failed my own son.
And honestly, I didn't know what you guys were thinking. I was probably so focused on myself and what I was feeling that I wasn't thinking a lot about you all. And I'm sorry about that. I might have figured that or rationalized that Colin was so remote from you and your lives that, you know, that when he was gone, that it wasn't any different than when he had a serious mental illness. He was basically removed from you all and from your lives.
Somebody had to be the steering force, or somebody had to be strong here. Somebody had to be a voice of reason. Somebody had to be, okay, is this what you need to do?
So Phil and I were cleaning out Colin's apartment, which was not fun, but you know, it had to be done. And both Phil and I are get it done type of people.
So you go through these waves, which is you're extremely sad, you're cleaning up the apartment, you're walking in, you're talking to the neighbor, she's saying how incredible Colin is. His neighbor said, oh, there's a package that was for Colin. This has got to be for us. You know, a message. Yeah, this is the note, this is the message that we were looking for.
To give us a gift, you know, after he had gone, that he wanted to give us something.
We open up the package, rip it open. I don't look at it or anything.
And he tore it open and he looked in, and his eyes got really big.
We pull out a dildo that...
Huge penis, rubber penis.
I didn't know they made them that big. I've never seen one in person, but it's, you know, it's a 1.5 feet long and, you know, thicker than my wrists.
You know, is he telling us something here? Like, fuck you?
Mom and I look at each other, and I don't think we say anything. We just start simultaneously laughing and crying.
Here we've had, you know, some really sad moments, and then all of a sudden we have this penis.
That was his last joke for us, which is like, hey, you guys are probably pretty sad right now, but don't worry, here's a big penis to cheer you up. A minute or two later, we flip over the package, and it's not addressed to Colin at all. And that, I think we needed that moment. And it was a big release.
I think he sent it to us for a comic relief.
I was on the back nine on the 10th hole, and I'd hit a shot up on the green. It was, you know, very close to the hole, and then a butterfly came as I was walking up and circled the ball, like a little circle around it, and then went and did a circle around the flag. And I went and I made the putt, and I knew something. I'd received a sign.
Look what's there.
What do you think that means?
I think it means he's here with us.
Feather after feather after feather after feather.
You know, there'll be a feather here, a feather there, and so I've sort of connected a hawk or eagle with him. And then maybe a week later, I was walking home, and I heard the hawk sound, and I looked up, and there the hawk was up on the steeple of the church on the cross. It's a warm feeling when that happens. One Christmas, Colin wrote his dad and I a card just explaining how he felt about us.
One to Mom, one to Dad, and he's talking about his gratitude.
Dear Mom, when I look back at these old family videos, I see one thing that happens to all three of us.
As soon as we hear your voice, our heads turn and our eyes light up with joy. We look to see your compassionate arms reaching out with full-hearted love.
You got a real close shot, it's just your eyes. Now I see a dirty sock, take it down. Take it down. And still today, I'm overwhelmed by the same feelings when I see you. I don't think there are many people like you out there in the world.
It just so happens I was lucky enough to have your unfathomable love in my life.
Over the years, we have developed quite a synergy as we attempt to look through the generational window.
We're constantly rediscovering the picture as we pick up the details, and we see it differently every day.
I am most grateful for is putting aside your successful, yet stressful career to spend more time.
To spend more time with the people that matter.
We learned a lot from him,
realize that time with family and being together is definitely important, and helping people is important.
He was still helping me with my films. Whatever I asked him to do, he would just do it.
Let's come around. Colin, you can come around here so you can get our faces.
And I remember he felt really appreciative that I was asking him for help. And I tried to give him money and he wouldn't take it. And that's how supportive he was.
He could lose over and over and over again, and he'd still show up the next day, because for him, like, having a glimmer of hope to win was enough. I think I also learned after he passed how you gotta appreciate the moments, really live in the moment, because you don't know when it's gonna end.
Well, Colin, the next time you do a zip line, make sure you do that move you did.
And so what we're very grateful for is that he stayed with us long enough to let us understand what was going on with him so we could be at peace.
Thank you for being patient with me through these 22 years of self-discovery and the guidance you bestow. Love, Colin. He lived for another 10 years after that note. That's courage. I mean, you have to picture that you're living in a world that you can't trust your own mind. You're trying to exist in that world. And I don't think I've had a situation where I had to draw on courage in the way that he did. He was a living, breathing example of it, and he was my son. And he was your brother.
All right. Yeah. Colin, happy birthday. We love you. We know you're with us. We love you. Love seeing that ring of ashes just slow down.
This is where my brothers and I used to swim when we were kids. And it's been a long time since I've been here. And to be close to the water again makes me feel close to him again.
My brother said he didn't feel like he was in the same water as everyone else. I'm sure this is something he'd want me to see again. Maybe to remind me. Here, we were in the same water together.
Okay. There we go. All right.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you so much for sharing that, Corey.
Of course. I'm going to stop recording so we can start.